Welcome to episode 4 of the podcast Boxed In. I am Garrity McOsker.
And I'm Trevor and Garrity.
Thank you for tuning in today. Today we have basically more of a news show.
Yeah.
We have some topics, a lot going on in the boxing world.
Lots going
a couple
on.
of good fights last night. Some things we want to go over.
We just had a chance to check into Rios versus Soto.
Yeah.
What do you take?
I love watching a fight like that. Yeah. I love seeing an older gentleman.
Mm-hmm. An older gentleman?
Teach a boxing lesson in a sense.
Yeah.
I've seen Humberto fight like 1 or 2 times maybe. Mm-hmm. I think I saw the guy cut the Molina fight. Mm-hmm. So I really, although he's 69 victories, he's a guy who has such a long resume. Is a guy I haven't gotten a chance to see much of. Yeah. So checking out that fight from last night was pretty awesome. I'm a Bam Bam Rios fan.
Everybody's a Bam Bam.
I love him.
Everybody loves Rios.
But to see that result, to see a guy, old man, put on a show like that is good too. You know, there's some boxing lessons to be learned, and I'm gonna watch the tape again.
when you have a fighter like Rios and you have a fighter like Humberto Soto, you know there's gonna be fireworks, and it's gonna be an exciting night. It's also to know that maybe these guys should have met each other when they're a little bit younger. You know, that would have been an incredible fight. But no matter what, they're going to bring that tenacity that both of them have, and you're going to get what you got last night. With Rios, being at this point of his career, I don't want to say he's in the twilight part of his career, but he is. And definitely with Soto too. So I thought it was an interesting match because the one thing that I thought that was going to come into play was how big Brandon would be the night of the fight. Yeah. And the other thing coming into play is, does Soto still have all the skills and craft? I mean, I think of Soto when he fought the Dominican. It's gonna drive me. Oh, Joanne Guzman, which was another incredible fight. Guzman won that fight. He did it, but it still was so competitive against a guy that at that particular time was with Guzman, Manny Pacquiao was essentially ducking him. So if you want to, just have that as a reference point. Yeah. And that's not just something that was coming out of me. Larry Merchant, that night of the fight when Guzman was fighting Soto. He basically said Manny should stay away from him. So the other fight that I can remember was Humberto Soto's when he fought Junior Urbano Antion at Anaheim at the Honda Center. And just once again, we're just talking. And Brandon Rios fought.
That's where he won his title. When he was
Brandon fought Antion as well.
I was at that fight. That was one of my first big time shows in Carson.
Yeah.
It was a good show.
It's a good show.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at these guys and you're looking at where they're at in their career, I think that what we saw last night, besides a very, very competitive fight, was that when push comes to shove, or whatever, I can't remember whatever the idiom.
Push comes to shove.
Is it shove? There we go. Yeah, push comes to shove. That skills pay the bills, and that Humberto Soto still had the skills.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about that. We were just catching up before this a little bit on the DAZN app, watching the replay. But what were some of the little
things,
nuggets that you saw Humberto doing, and that you were kind of trying to pass on to me, trying to teach me? Because you catch a lot more things than I do. Sometimes I'm just looking for the action, and I'm not looking at the subtleties. Yeah. So I think maybe the viewers and listeners will be interested in hearing this too. But
it's hard to break this down without having video. But the one thing that I would say about a guy like Soto is that he doesn't make any agreements. You've heard me say this before, and specifically that when he gets inside, and there's going to be a lot of inside work because. Listen,
that's the type of fighters.
They're both Mexican fighters. Yeah. They both come to fight.
Put their nose down your chest and bang away.
Yeah, but that Soto is being cerebral in his how he's going about it. And if you look at Soto isn't just going to touch you to the body. He might hit you with the right uppercut on the inside of the elbow to open up your arm to hit you with the left hook to the body. He might jab at you and then leave the hand there and swipe your hand down and hit you with the right cross. The thing that you saw me talk about was he let 4 or 6 go, straight punches, and then he moved his head out the way with the left hook afterwards. It's some of these things are instinctual for guys because on their way up they're learning these things, and then other times you come around a great trainer and they're going to teach you about how to control the action a lot of times. Yeah. There's so many fighters that I see that don't do these things. Now, I know that he's been with Robert Garcia for a lot of times, but just to be very honest, and I have nothing but praises for Robert Garcia, but not all Robert Garcia fighters have this sort of control about them. Mikey does. I mean,
right. And you don't think that that's necessarily a Garcia thing, but that's just that's innate in Mikey's abilities, and not necessarily something that his brother taught him.
It's something. One thing that I would say about Robert Garcia and obviously their father, specifically, you can see parallels between the way that Fernando Vargas fights and the way that Robert Garcia himself fought, who was an incredible fighter. In fact, if we're looking at the Garcia camp, was one of the best technically sound craft guys that I saw out of the Garcia camp, besides his brother and Fernando. But that these guys did have that sort of control. I'm not there. I'm not involved in their camps. I have no idea what it is that's being taught. But when you're looking at Brandon Rios and as far as his ability to control a fighter, it's something as easy as if someone hits you with a left hook and you push their head out of the way afterwards and move them over to your right to catch them with the right hand, or if you jab them and leave the hand there so that they can't counter. It's all sorts of stuff that are going on like this. Bernard Hopkins, Andre Floyd.
I love watching an older boxer who knows all the right tricks and kind of be a technician in there, even though it doesn't necessarily look the most sexy. But
it is the most sexy.
They're fucking, but they are making great decisions, and it's just like it's an amazing way to watch a fight develop when you're talking about hand placement. Like basically deciding I'm going to decide where you're going to put your elbow. And that's going to dictate where I'm going next. You know what I mean?
I've seen an interview with Andre Berto, and he was talking about his experience of fighting Floyd. And one of the things he was talking about when he fought Floyd is that when they got in a clinch, he could hear Floyd taking deep breaths, right? So you can imagine, here's a veteran, and you're looking at Floyd, and you're seeing how relaxed this guy is, and you're looking, you're wondering what are the little things that Floyd is doing to be so successful, or why he has been so successful in the greatest of our generation in boxing. And these are things that a lot of trainers aren't talking about, or I think the general public isn't aware. But when these things compounded little bricks make all the difference in the world. And
there's things that there's little nuances that even fighters aren't unaware of. Like I get taught something new, a little tip or trick about moving someone's head or moving someone's elbow or a move to open somebody up. And in the first 10 years of my boxing experience, I never came across a trainer that taught me that until this guy. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things out there that are unknown to the public, but
I think we're all like that, though, right? I mean, if you're Emmanuel Stewart, the great trainer of Tommy Hearns and Lennox Lewis, and we can keep Miguel Cotto, we can keep going on. Even trained Ray Beltran. All these champions had said one time in an interview that boxing is one of these things where you can learn one new thing a day. Now this is coming from one of the greatest trainers of all time. You put him up there with Eddie Futch. You put him up there with Freddie Roach. I mean, put him up there, right? I mean, everybody knows who Emmanuel Stewart is. And for Emmanuel to basically say that you can learn a new thing in your craft, every day in boxing. And is whether or not another guy that comes to mind is Nate Campbell. Nate Campbell had something that he said. I don't know if you remember Nate, but
I don't.
Yeah, he was a fighter. I want to say he's out of Florida, but he was a world champion. But Nate Campbell had said that if you go, that every person in a gym does something right, one thing right. And if you can find out what that is, you're always learning. But it's when you're thinking about that, you're thinking about boxing, that knowledge is out there, and sometimes specifically when you run across these one-dimensional trainers, Gennaro Hernandez Chicanito once said to me that. There's like 1,000 different ways to tear down a wall. So, and the metaphor is basically there's different ways to go about fighting.
Yeah, different trainers will have different approaches.
Absolutely. Yeah. Did you look at DeGale versus Eubanks?
I was out last night, so I didn't watch it. To be honest with you, but I saw a few clips, and one moment that caught me was when Eubanks rugby dumped.
Rugby.
But you watched the fight, right?
I watched the fight. Just out of fairness with Eubanks and DeGale, you're gonna have physical moments like that. DeGale was putting himself in a slot that I don't know. Maybe a slot. A slot for the listeners is like a defensive move that you can put yourself in. Think of Floyd Mayweather when someone throws a jab. you'll often see Floyd Mayweather dip low to sort of take the balance of the waist away. And it's one of these things that I'd have to show on video, but he's putting himself in a defensive position. Another fighter to reference, you could think of Pernell Whitaker doing the same sort of thing. And I think that Chris Eubanks was getting a little angry. I know a lot of fighters start pushing to take the balance away because they don't want them to counter them. Some fighters might use their front elbow. And so things started to get a little bit physical. It's also one of these things where, like, I know that, and like in Azteca, for example, in Bell Gardens, when fighters are dipping real low, that some people are saying that they're not fighting or, stand up and so forth. Yeah. So it's a lot of, but yeah, it got.
There's certain places where being defensive is looked at as like not fighting, but like it all depends.
It all depends. Both those guys are fighters. I think that Eubanks might have gotten a little bit mad about it, a little bit bothered. He shouldn't have. I mean, he was winning the fight as far as I had him winning almost every round. Contrary to some of the judges' scorecards. Although I want to say that one of the judges had it 117, 109. I can't remember though. It's all the scores. But you're looking at Eubanks looked incredible. I didn't expect, if you would have asked me, I thought that DeGale was going to win the fight. I think I'd said that to Sean Estrada.
Yeah. Sean, who fought DeGale in the amateurs.
Yeah. Fought him in the Olympics.
In the Olympics.
Not just the amateurs.
Yeah.
So, but great fight. Eubanks looked good. And he had those moments like his father. Mm-hmm. And he just, the guy was thrown with some intent. And he was putting everything into it. He almost had him down. He knocked James down twice. He almost had him out of there. And just to be fair, too, about the fight, and this is just my opinion, I thought that there was a little bit of biasness with the referee. So, yeah. But, what was kind of interesting is you can always expect that sort of thing over the pond. But both those guys are from over the pond. Yeah, both of them. But
But that's a whole, we don't even know what it's like. Like they say it's hard to fight in Texas here, that, judges in Texas are
I had a fighter,
the most ridiculous. They say that. There may be whole nuances in England that have regional ties. Who knows?
We don't know who the favorite is.
We don't know who. One guy might be from one area, one guy might be from another area, and it might be hard to fight in a certain city. Who knows?
One of the fighters I was working with fought for a title out there at Wembley Arena, and and it was an interesting experience. Unfortunately, he came up short. It was for Klitschko's vacated heavyweight title, so it was a big deal. But the one thing that I remember was,
what was the name of this fighter again?
It was a Malik Scott versus Derek Chisora. Malik Scott. Yeah. So just to think about it. That was kind of interesting is that I don't know anything about football, about soccer. I'll watch it during the World Cup just because it's fun, but I don't know anything. But it was Derek. I want to say Chisora is a Manchester guy. I could be wrong, but there was like some saying about like him repping a specific football club, and so things are different. And we did, to be fair, Malik had gotten knocked down, I think in the 5th or 6th round, and there was what everybody thought was an early count out, and that Malik had gotten up and that the ref had waved off the action. Malik was up, in my opinion. I don't remember what the cards were. The majority of rounds before that, he did get clipped. Things happen in boxing, but these things, you're gonna come across all this kind of stuff. So yeah, what do you think about Wilder saying that he's a free agent with? Yeah.
I don't know what to think about it, because I don't know exactly what that means, because I believe he's still tied with Al Haymon.
He's absolutely tied.
So what does it necessarily mean to call yourself a free agent? Yeah. This is boxing. Isn't everyone essentially a free agent? It's to some degree.
To some degree.
You're tied. You're tied to who
also not though.
Writes your check, but if it means we're getting closer to a rematch, maybe this is a sort of a publicity move to make such a deal happen.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I think they're trying to bypass any idea that there's going to be a cog in that fight for not happening, as far as Tyson Fury rematches, the rematch with Deontay. And Deontay probably set a precedent and was preemptive by saying, hey, look, I'm a free agent. Now, what does that translate over to? basically, the only thing I could take away is that he doesn't have any ties to Showtime, and that he's willing to fight with
beyond
Tyson.
Sky Sports or something.
Wherever it is that they land. Now,
which may help.
Which I think does help. I'm gonna, the deal for Tyson Fury was $80 million. I don't know if it's for. I don't know the details besides that. I know I read it. I just can't remember. But I mean, there's a guarantee to $80 million as long as he goes through with the contract and so forth. It's to know that that basically saying to Tyson, hey, I want this rematch to happen. I think it's a very important fight for Deontay too. Deontay reminds me of Lennox Lewis, and I say that he reminds me of Lennox Lewis only not Lennox. Deontay hasn't lost, but when Lennox did lose, he immediately went for the rematch. Deontay looks at this last fight, and maybe there's a lot of naysayers out there that don't
feels like a loss. Sure.
And he says, hey, look, I want Tyson Fury back.
Yeah.
Just to go on record, and I kind of differ from a lot of my friends with this, I do think that if Deontay fights Tyson Fury again, I think that he stops him. The reason being, a lot of people will say, hey, I don't see Tyson Fury, I don't see Deontay making any adjustments. But what I would say is that every time that Deontay didn't respect Tyson Fury, he put him down. And so if Deontay goes in there and perhaps is coming in that mindset just to fight him and not box with him, that I think that we might see something like Bermain Stavern again, which is Bermain Stavern fought Joe Joyce last night.
Yeah.
You were out. Yeah.
I watched the replay this morning.
Yeah, watched the replay. Yeah. So the Juggernaut, right? He's another British guy. Joe's from, Joe's from over the pond. He's a big guy. He was training with Abel Sanchez at the summit. He's with Abel Sanchez in Big Bear, and I don't know, what are they doing better than the Americans? It seems like they got like a fertile ground for heavyweights because.
To tell you the truth, I wish I knew.
All of our heavyweights end up in football or basketball.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah. If you have an incredible talent and you're recognized early as an American athlete, you're being drawn to football. Yeah, you're being
football.
pulled.
So, or basketball.
Or basketball. There's no scholarships being offered.
There's rumors that LeBron is 280 right now. So I kept thinking about that. If LeBron's 6'8" or 6'9", I don't know, but big guy.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that frame in boxing? And he's obviously an athlete. So.
Yeah. Did he play football in high school?
I don't know. I don't think so because he probably was just so dominant.
Yeah.
He also looked like a 28-year-old man when he was 18.
Yeah.
So, but looking at thinking about the Bermain Stavern fight last night, and Bermain, just to be fair, didn't his body as far as the way that his body looked. I think you talked about this with Rios.
Fat Skinny?
Fat Skinny, yeah.
Rios, I love Rios.
Yeah.
I'm a big Bam Bam Rios fan. But I was naming him earlier as the king of the Fat Skinny.
King of the Fat Skinny. Bermain has never been like a very lean, ripped guy, but Bermain had a certain body to him that you respected. It kind of like a Big Baby Miller,
That's a fight.
That's a fight.
That's coming up with Joshua and Big Baby Miller.
Yeah, it's a great fight. But just to say, Bermain's body last night looked like he hasn't been taking himself serious. He didn't have that. You might be thicker,
vacation mode.
Vacation mode. So go ahead about
it happens.
Miller and.
Yeah, I'm excited. Actually, more importantly, is Anthony? You gotta culture me because I don't know shit about rap music. Right. Is Anthony Joshua a good rapper or not?
No, of course not. I mean, listen. You gotta be honest about these things. If you've been born and you can be the heavyweight champion of the world, which is just incredible, right? So what are the chances you could be a great or good rapper and be heavyweight champion of the world? It's pretty much like that. That's not going to happen. Lightning will not strike twice,
right?
Yeah.
But he was freestyling, and that looked incredibly difficult to do
on Sway's show.
It sounded cringeworthy, but maybe it's just his accent.
You want to have let's take a look at it, and there's Sway, right? So he's an icon.
And many have failed. This is the valley of the hyenas.
Yo, I'm chilling with Sway. I come from the UK, I'm hustling hard, trying to get a payday. I come from the bottom of the pit, so I can tell you about my lyrics and how I live this shit. I come from the grit, I hustle so hard, catch me in a Range Rover. I used to drive a Jaguar, now I'm cruising, I'm never losing, I'm just hustling. I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing.
Best rapper in the UK.
Best rapper
think it's
in
pretty
the
good,
UK.
dude.
Who else?
You think so? Yeah.
I mean, good talent-wise, maybe it's not.
Yeah. Well, I suspect that it's written.
I've always wondered that.
I think that some of this might be written. It's also that, listen, this guy's a star. Look at Anthony Joshua as a star. I mean, he's got that charisma. I mean, Anthony Joshua is a guy that everybody hates because he has everything. He's got the looks. The guy, you know, has one of the best bodies that I've ever seen him.
Jesus Christ.
And boxing. I mean, the guy. I mean, literally looks like he should be, you know, be signed to some movie deal for Hollywood to be.
He could go. He could be a movie star after.
But as far as his freestyling skills go, I don't know. You know, there's been some freestylers. Daylight, one of these rappers, that I don't know if you know who he is, but he's an interesting guy. He does a lot of interviews with Vlad on Vlad TV. But he had a
Vlad, isn't that prank guy?
No. Cole, you should know. You don't know who Vlad is?
Vlad is a prank video guy?
No. You're thinking of Florentine, maybe Jim Florentine. But Vlad did an interview with Daylight, and I don't know if you're ever bored, but you should watch him. And you know,
I never get bored.
I don't know anything about Daylight. But I mean, the interviews are incredible. The guy actually goes into different characters during the interview, so he'll show up as a different character. But he's also one of these guys that's just known for freestyling, and then he's coming out with albums too, in all fairness. But I mean, it's just incredible. So, but when we're talking about Anthony Joshua here, can Anthony Joshua freestyle? I'm going to say that it's still cringeworthy for an American to hear anybody with a British voice freestyle. And that's just somebody.
December 21 Savage. No, I have no idea.
Hey,
does he have an accent? I don't
does
know.
21 Savage have an accent?
No, right?
Not since he was 7. Yeah. 21 Savage got himself
but
a little
here's
bit of
the deal.
trouble, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But here's the deal about Anthony Joshua. What I've always wondered is when people freestyle rap, I would imagine that you write these things to have on the spot and have ready to go later.
Yeah.
Is any freestyle rap really being freestyled, or is it like because you're an artist and you're writing songs all the time?
Yeah.
You might have these in your back pocket, right?
Have this in the back of your pocket. Yeah. No, I think that like if you're talking to, say, if you're talking to an academic about something that's related to their topic,
they got talking points ready to go.
It's not necessarily. It's also language it's really easy for them to access because it's right there. Because this is what they're writing all the time. This is what they're thinking all the time. So if you're talking to like a real MC, you know, and I have had a couple.
Also,
go ahead.
What is a real MC? Because
a real MC.
Let me ask.
Kendrick
Lamar. No.
Yeah.
But MC like
Masters of Ceremonies. Versus EMCEE.
Yeah. So, back in the day, they used to call rappers MCs, or is it just a nickname? Like, what makes someone an MC? Is it just a vernacular?
It's vernacular, but
Okay.
I mean, if you come from hip hop culture, right? I
do not.
So
that's why you're teaching me.
So I grew. Obviously because of my age, I grew up in hip hop. I don't know if you know this. I was an editor of a hip hop magazine.
No, I did not. Was it a zine or was it a magazine?
A magazine. I actually had 70,000 in circulation at the time in 1990s, and you know we'd interviewed Common and we'd interviewed Ice Cube. We interviewed a lot of probably other people that you're not familiar with and so forth. But
I know Ice Cube.
Yeah. You don't know who Common is?
Common?
Yeah.
No.
Wow.
Not that common.
Wow, this is great. So this is great. But so as far as hip hop culture is concerned and MCs, I mean this is like a little lesson about there's different elements of hip hop. There's MCing, which is basically rapping. There's DJing.
Okay.
There's graffitiing, right? You know, people painting and so forth. And the b-boying, breakdancing. So this is like the 4 elements of hip hop. And some people would argue that the 5th was fashion, although I never signed off on that. But this is when in the hip hop context, an MC only means one thing. An MC doesn't mean that you're running across a wedding and it's like, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Garrity.
Yeah.
Like that's never going to be the MC. No, an MC is always going to be the rapper. So, but you know. Anthony Joshua grew up on hip hop his whole life. I mean, he's rapping over a Mobb Deep track. You know, and you don't know who Mobb Deep is.
I don't know Mobb Deep is, dude, but
man, this
I like Anthony Joshua, and I thought that was good, man.
Look, this makes me sad inside.
I know.
I'm sorry. This makes me sad inside that you don't know.
What do you
Mobb
expect, dude?
You know, but some of these things, I think that that's why I'm here to catch you up on board. But yeah,
I'm just one Wikipedia article away from.
Here's a great thing about having someone like him on Sway's show. Anthony Joshua is a star. The same way that Deontay Wilder is a star, and the same way that Tyson Fury is a star. These three men have something that the heavyweight division, I think, has been missing.
Yeah.
Which is charisma and personality. I mean, who wouldn't want?
You didn't get it with the Klitschko's. Now we're getting star power again in the heavyweight division.
Yeah,
and it's fun.
It's fun, and
think about it. It's a lot like Muhammad Ali would write poems that he would recite at press conferences.
Yeah.
We have Anthony Joshua freestyling. I mean, I love it.
Who's going to be the Howard Cosell?
Say it again?
Who's going to be the Howard Cosell?
Who's Howard Cosell?
Oh, my God, bro. Oh, right. You don't know who Howard Cosell is?
No.
Oh, man. Okay, so Cosell was basically Ali's antagonist, which is he was a journalist during the time. He was asking Ali all these great questions. They had a relationship.
Teeing him off, kind of.
Yeah, but it was a very reciprocal relationship that they had with each other, where he got the best out of Ali, and Ali got the best out of Cosell. Because especially, and you can imagine what's going on during that time.
Back then, it was very politically charged.
Civil rights movement.
Right.
Ali had made a decision that he wasn't going to go to Vietnam based on him being tied to the Nation of Islam. He was stripped of the title at 25, and then to have that sort of relationship, especially during that political climate, and to get
and there were plenty. Everyone loves him now, and across all age groups, but there's plenty of haters at that time.
Oh, absolutely.
And it was a proxy for other racist things at the time. To be an Ali hater was maybe a way to hide another another form of hatred. To call him un-American was a way to slide past something else.
We're not being, you can be very short-sighted with history sometimes.
Right.
Whenever you walk into the Big Five, or whenever you walk into the Dick's Sporting Goods, or wherever it is, and you look at Ali, where something has Ali's image on it, you're not really being very honest to the real narrative that existed in the United States of America, which is that Ali was hated at the time, and that Ali was frowned on, and that I hate to say this, but they loved Ali after Parkinson's had kicked in, and he had lost his cognition, and he no longer was the Ali with the voice. I mean, and this is just being so when people, even this idea that people referring to him as the greatest of all time. Listen, they weren't referring to him as the greatest of all time during his career. The man was hated. Half of the country was getting behind Joe Frazier. They were only getting behind Joe Frazier because he was tied to unions, and they saw him as a blue collar worker. But even with what's going on with Kaepernick, right? It's
the people's reaction to Colin Kaepernick right now. I gotta imagine it's funny how Ali is remembered as such a great hero. Everyone loves him now. But people did not at the time, and
will they remember Kaepernick like that for years?
Who knows?
Yeah, it's a little bit different with both of them. They're both speaking up about things that are important and that mattered, and there's a parallel with what Ali was saying at that time, and a sadness that we have to sort of to talk about a little bit, that these things still exist today. So things that Ali was talking about back in the 1960s, all the way up in the 70s and 80s and so forth, are still very relevant today. When you're looking at Kaepernick and you're looking at the decision that he made to take a knee, I've heard a lot of critics say that Kaepernick had been demoted from the starting position with the 49ers, and it was a little bit shy of a year. But it's also to say, anytime that someone says that, I just don't think that they're being very honest, and they're not looking at it because
a lot of haters said that Kaepernick, he only decided to take a stance once he had already been demoted, and if he had more of a conscience, he would have done it when he was a starter. But the other thing is, when you're an athlete and you're in the zone, there's nothing else that comes on your mind, and when you've taken a backseat, whether it be in your position or in your career, you do have a chance to think about other, like,
Yeah.
to think about your political involvement, to think about your business ventures. So it doesn't surprise me that someone, after they become a bench warmer, starts to think about their impact beyond
just to be
just the
fair
game.
too, that I think that we can all be short-sighted with history with this, which is to know that for that moment of time and another moment of time that we know inevitably that will run across in America until things change as far as, you know, the narrative of race and how it plays out in America. And just to be honest about it, which is that this was a very heavy moment of time. We kept on having unarmed people of color killed, which it almost seemed it was weekly or monthly at the time. And so when Kaepernick makes a decision that he's going to take a knee, somebody else saying, well, why didn't he do it a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago when he was at the cover of ESPN magazine? That's also dismissing the fact that there was
killings were heating up.
It was very regular at that time, and someone needed to speak up. Kaepernick making, you know, I guess he made a deal with, I don't want to say deal, but they came to a settlement with the NFL this week based on something that had to do with wrongful termination. Or I don't know if that's even appropriate. Obviously, we're not privy to the case, but it's to, you know, it's just to be honest, the last thing I want is the silencing of Kaepernick, who I see as a very important social and civil rights activist of our time, and a dissident that had the courage to go out there and take a knee. I hope that we hear more from Kaepernick, and obviously don't know the details of the NFL, but I hope that this that whatever collective agreement that they came together with negotiations with each other, that this doesn't silence a man's voice that matters.
Yeah,
for
the ability, and
also
also silence the ability of any other athlete to decide that when they see an injustice to speak up. I mean, it shouldn't be taken off the table, you know.
It's also too to understand that you know, just to have an honest conversation with people, that when we see someone like Kaepernick step up, that we shouldn't be so dismissive of it, and know that it's coming from a good place. It's coming from wanting to change our perspective. And the one thing that no matter what, that we have to say what Kaepernick did was he invited a conversation to dining room tables across America about this idea of police brutality or an implicit bias that existed and racism that existed in our police structure. So,
and the hardest part was how much fighting he had to do against the rhetoric that immediately tried to silence him, saying that this was against the flag or against the military. That was an uphill battle because it immediately became like, look how unpatriotic he is. We lost the message of what it's about.
There has to be symbolism, right? So imagine, you know, and obviously I think what you're sort of alluding to is you'll hear people say he didn't have to go about it that way, right? But like he had to do something that acted as a catalyst for a conversation that that we as a country needed to have.
If he was loud about it, they would have been mad. If he was silent about it, they were mad. What is he gonna do?
So I guess the $1 million question is that 20 or 30 years from now or 40 years from now, are we going to go to Walmart or Target and will there be Kaepernick footballs, right? Sort of like how you see Ali and the Ali memorabilia that's getting sold to us all the time.
I don't think he's as big of an athlete impact as Ali.
No, Ali was a huge athlete.
But the fact of the matter is, he already does have a commercial deal with Nike, so we're gonna see something.
Well,
later on, Nike's gonna pat themselves on the back in 20, 30 years.
Well, it was,
and be like, hey, look at us. Remember when we backed up an activist?
When the Nike thing happened, and just, you know, one of the stories that came out about Nike is that Nike had been allocating money to the GOP, to the Republican Party. And by no ways am I being critical of the Republican Party. I'm not going to just jump on and say the Republican Party as a whole is bad. But the assumption based on that is that there's a message that comes out of that part of the country that is in conflict of this, of taking a knee, or there being any sort of social or political activism or dissidence, right? So you look at Nike and you look at Nike's decision to get behind Kaepernick, and the logical, pragmatic part of me thinks that there was probably a lot of data involved and, you know, research that this was strategic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nike had sort of lost marketplace in what they call the sportswear industry, specifically in a demographic that was being tied to the urban marketplace. So that perhaps Nike made a decision, and Nike's stock had gone up to the highest that it had ever been after they made the decision to get behind Kaepernick. Last thing too is that I was okay with it, that Kaepernick had taken this burden of responsibility on himself, and that he was being paid by Nike, and that this was different than 1968 or 1964 and so forth. That a company could step up and get behind a civil rights leader in our time. And I went out and bought Nikes, but this is
I bought my Nigel Houston Nikes SBs.
Nigel's an incredible skater.
I love that guy.
It's
my first time ever buying a nice pair of I guess you call them sneakers, but they're skate shoes. But they're made by Nike. I've never bought anything like that, but these ones were like
Nike SB.
I had to get them.
They were doing all the colors like the Dunks back in the day.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, back to sort of last thing sort of about Cap is that there's rumors that Cap might go back to the NFL. I don't know if you've been following any of that.
I have seen that there's a chance.
In boxing, you can never step away for that many years.
Right.
Go be successful unless you were just literally Floyd. But even with Floyd, I don't think that
he's not stepped away though. He's working out.
It's probably a bit different than being on that field, I imagine. Floyd worked out the other day. The same day that I guess Manny had posted a video of him working out, and Floyd had posted a video of him working out. So you never know with Floyd, because he's an architect himself.
I know, yeah.
He's planting those little seeds for another rematch. But
so you want to talk about Floyd and Gucci?
Oh yeah, I mean, the Gucci story. So you've been following the Gucci story?
A little bit.
We could probably get an image.
So what the hell? What I want to know is
we can get Gucci to pull up an image for us to get a look.
Gucci comes out with a sweater that rolls up over the face, and it's like
it's minstrelsy.
It's a blackface look, and
so it's
this seems like does anyone ever even wear a sweater like that? Like, what was the purpose of coming out with this? Was it just to get the negative backlash? Because negative backlash ends up being the publicity they wanted to be relevant, or you're not selling any of those, right?
It's listen, when I look at this photo, there's a sadness that I'm sort of, that this is a realization that we, are still having these things happen in 2019. There's a rich history, or a dark history, I should say, that's involved with minstrelsy in in America, right? That we're all sort of well aware of. When you see that Gucci comes out with a sweater like this, I can't, is the logical part of me that maybe thinks that is trying to figure out whether or not this could be something else besides as what it appears. And I'm going to tell you that no, there's nothing else. It's also too to know. I don't know if you know this. Here's another one. Burberry did a new sweater that had came out. You hear about this? So, but back to what happened with Gucci and Floyd Mayweather and T.I., who somebody else is involved in it. Rightfully so, when you're looking at a brand like Gucci or Louis Vuitton or one of these higher end designers, and we're talking about hip hop, and we're talking about how these companies have indirectly grown or directly grown because of the influence that hip hop has. Yeah, there it goes right there. So, there's a noose, right? So, it's obviously you can't.
What's the story behind this?
Well, I mean, you can't. I'm not going to jump and say that this has anything to do with race, but I am going to say that this has something to do with the absurdity of fashion, and that maybe perhaps that fashion. We have to question the influence that it has over society as a whole, and should be more mindful.
It was done for a marine theme.
Yeah, maritime theme, huh? Yeah,
that's what it was.
Yeah.
This jacket?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I don't, when you see images like this and what's being pushed in front of us, but back to sort of what I was saying. So you're looking at Gucci, you're looking at other higher-end designers, you're looking at hip-hop music, obviously the growth of stocks that are involved in these companies. Just a very honest thing to say is that these companies would not be as big as they are today without the consent the purchasing by black folks in America and by other people of color that are tied to urban markets in America.
So let me get
no
ahead
country,
of you here.
No country music singer is
buying Gucci or
is
rapping about
talking
Gucci.
about
Yeah.
Gucci. Lyrically, he's talking about Gucci.
Gucci has
Louis
become
Vuitton,
almost a word in itself,
Versace and so forth. All these
right? So I don't know which rapper did it, but it's
Gucci Mane.
Yeah, exactly. But Gucci itself has almost become like a way to say good or something like that. Like
it's Gucci.
yeah, exactly. So
I don't know. I've heard it.
Do you think there's some pushback then from the designers
right.
on trying to like flake off the segment, the Black American segment that is buying this stuff?
Oh no, not at all. No, I don't think that.
So publicity move to.
I should hope not. You never know, but I do think that there's an insensitivity that exists with designers and so forth. They don't, designers. They're not from these communities. They, essentially, the question.
But there's no doubt that is fully.
When a sweater like
look,
that
like there's no
gets
doubt that
made,
that's what that is.
You have to ask yourself, what the fuck were you guys thinking?
Also, but
not to cuss, because
yeah,
I know
yeah.
it's a
no, it's fine.
Yeah, but yeah, there's nothing else that I could think. There's no other way to look at it like that, and so it also is an insensitivity that consistently is being perpetuated out of these spaces, and not to use that sort of language, but. There's designers that are being tied to Gucci that they're thinking this is okay. I know H&M had an ad earlier this year. Do you remember the H&M ad?
Yeah.
Danielle, look it up.
Craziest monkey in the jungle.
Yeah.
So that one looked like a big fuck up.
Yeah.
This one looks like
Yeah.
completely planned.
Yeah.
We want to do a blackface sweater.
I mean,
which no one's gonna buy. So I don't know why you're making it, because no one wears a sweater that rolls up past your face with a hole in it.
Yeah.
If it's Gucci, they will.
If it's Gucci. Yeah.
Okay. Well, my reaction to this was like, they probably made this to create backlash. They're gonna take it off the market anyway, and now Gucci's just mentioned a million more times. Yeah. I don't know.
Here we go.
Coolest monkey in the jungle. Yeah.
So once again, when you gotta scratch your head. A lot of this, it's really hard, and perhaps this is in parallel to your thought about this, which is perhaps you're right, and that it is a master plan. And I shouldn't laugh about it, because the truth is when you see something as absurd as this, when you see something as absurd as the Gucci sweater, that it's also a message that continually is being pushed on communities of color, particularly black folks in America, that they're running across this stuff, and that so
let's get to Floyd.
Floyd, rightfully so. You have a lot of people speak up. T.I. was somebody that spoke up. I know a lot of other people spoke up. There was a movement on the internet that speaks up, that says that wow, here we go. Katy Perry has criticism over shoe design resembling blackface. So. Yeah. So
it's very, a trend now, I guess.
It looks very minstrel, and that was just February 12th. Yeah. So, there was a call for a boycott of Gucci. Now, listen, when we're talking about boycotts, and we're talking about history, and you talk about Rosa Parks, and you talk about the Montgomery bus boycott, and how powerful not participating and boycotting brands can be, or in that case, boycotting the bus, and ultimately what that ended up as being, one of those seeds where to challenge segregation and to move on in America, that there is power in not spending your money with these companies. I think that when people come out and they say they're going to boycott Gucci, that Gucci definitely deserves a boycott. Floyd had went to a Gucci store afterwards, and I think the TMZ article
made a show of it.
Yeah,
almost.
there's an Instagram thing too. Floyd went to a Gucci store. I think he spent it $70,000 or a couple $100,000. You never know with Floyd, right? Floyd has a lot of money. And his message was
Born a leader.
Born a leader, yes. So born a leader. Do I think that this is insensitive on Floyd's part? Yeah, absolutely. I think that, do I understand why people will want to take Floyd to task? For sure. The one thing that we do know about Floyd is that Floyd has always never shied away from from entering that
Controversy. He's
controversy.
looking for it all the time.
Yeah, he likes being the antagonist, and it's also to know that I'm not a flower. When everybody else say everybody gonna boycott. I guess what this boy gonna get on a yacht and live like I am not a follower. When everybody else they say everybody gonna boycott. I say guess what, this boy gonna get on a yacht and live life. So, I mean, Floyd had also had a rebuttal for a diss song that T.I. had done, but these things are very, very complicated, right? And no matter who you are, we should probably question whether or not you want to be spending all your money at a Gucci store, or the money that you do have at a Gucci store. I would probably, I know that you like to do investments in the morning time. You probably can think of a million different ways where you can spend your money that.
Dude, Payless, another piece of news. Payless, I read an article. They're finally filing for bankruptcy, shutting their doors.
Wow.
That brings a tear to my eye.
Brings a tear to my eye. I wanted Reeboks. I wanted these Velcro Reeboks with the strap back in the day.
Do you have the bootleg ones at
but
Payless?
I had to go to Payless. Yeah. My mom brought me to Payless in Norwalk. So
I remember Andy McDonald. Is that his name? Yeah, the skateboarder, the vert skater. Yeah. He had a shoe brand for a while, right? Yeah. And then like a lot of brands, I think the Shaq brand had also had this happen. But kind of a brand runs its course and then it gets like spun off and like sold to whoever the distributors are in Payless. Yeah. And so I finally got a pair of Andy McDonald's shoes when they were like the Payless product. Like they had been just revamped as a new thing. It was. Yeah. They're terrible shoes.
So back to Gucci, back to what's happening, back to Floyd. We were talking about Floyd coming out as intact. This is who Floyd has always been. Floyd has always stayed true to character. I think that Floyd had another thing that he put on Instagram that talked about that Floyd had always been promoting a message of being drug-free, of being about his money, making sound investments and so forth. And it sort of said that in response to T.I. that rap music itself has been responsible for pushing some of the most harmful, corrosive messages that are affecting the communities like that Floyd came from, where his father came from, and T.I. comes from, and these communities that have to that this is a reality. With this, listen, I think that my personal opinion is people should boycott Gucci. I mean, I think that you need to take people to task on this sort of stuff. Am I going to be critical of Floyd not boycotting Gucci? Yeah, I'm critical of it. But is that who Floyd is as a person? Yeah. Is Floyd saying something where there's some truth about messages that are resonating in hip hop culture, whether they be misogynist, whether it be tied to violence or attributing to more criminality that exists and so forth.
Yeah,
I think that's an honest
I applaud Floyd for calling out the fact that maybe T.I.'s music has been promoting drugs or whatever, and saying how the rap community has done a disservice to the youth and whatnot. But what ground does Floyd have to stand on when it comes to we want to talk about violence?
I think too that who said that I'm not a role model? Was that Allen Iverson?
No, that was
Charles Barkley.
Barkley, yeah,
Charles Barkley. So I think that a lot of times that we're looking at people. T.I. example, we know T.I. stepped up and talked about the Gucci thing. We also, I think that T.I. was tied in with some gun charges. Listen. Angela Davis has this famous quote about revolutionary brothers being imperfect, right? Which is, and I guess what the saying is there is a lot of times when these messages are coming out that nobody's perfect, right? I mean, I think that, but the most important thing that's happening with Gucci or with the H&M thing or with the Katy Perry thing or even with Burberry or whoever it is that a conversation is being had. A dialogue is starting to be more common, and that we as Americans should be okay with taking these companies to task or even boycotting them if we feel like we've been
I'm going to boycott Gucci for the rest of my life. I don't think I was ever in the market to buy anything Gucci, but I promise you I would never will. Yeah. I think it's a bad idea. Boycott them for this stupid stunt they pulled. But also, never buy Gucci. That's fucking retarded.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think
to waste your money on that shit. Yeah.
You know, if you have Floyd Mayweather type of money and you want to buy Gucci, I can understand. But if you're like, you know, you and I, and
I'd be doing something different.
Yeah. But even then, like, why buy? None of that is as far as if we're going to have a conversation about value and, you know, assets, right? Nothing that you buy from Gucci, it's not an asset. It's not going to retain its value. Right. It's not going to. You're going to buy it there. You probably and then, to be honest, you're only going to encounter other people that even know that you have Gucci on if they too are, you know, spending their money on that. But everybody else, you know, it might say you look nice, but they might not know that your black T-shirt is $340 and it's Gucci, and nobody knows because they can't see the tag. I'm guilty of buying. I've bought some expensive things in my day. You know, I had a Gucci wallet, for example, although I lost it. I love that wallet. But the thing about it is that everyone's going to do this sort of stuff. I think that we're out there. We're going to. Everyone should try to be better. And but these are great conversations that are having, and unfortunately, they're being had because of companies making stupid. Or speaking of, I don't know if you had a chance to see this, the fentanyl rap video.
I did see it. Yeah. I think we should play it for the.
Yeah, let's play the fentanyl rap video. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're ready to go.
So do you want to lead it? Do you want to?
No, I think let's let the video speak.
All right, yeah.
They got the graffiti.
Oh. So like, I feel like the girl on the left is like maybe like a hired dancer or like whatever, but the obvious guy who's probably just like the top sales rep.
No.
Tall white guy with the glasses. Look at him.
I think he's the CEO or he was involved in the company. Yeah. Let's just let it keep going because this is what I call cultural gold, I guess, right? Sign of the times.
Yeah.
Is this 2 Live Crew? Yeah, I think it's something from out of Miami. Yeah.
You're asking me?
You know, Doo Brown is 2 Live Crew. Yeah. All right. Well, I think they're feeling it. So, you want to cut the video? Yeah. So
this video was shown to sales reps within the company as a way to rally the troops and get people pushing, basically trying to encourage doctors to fill higher doses of fentanyl, which is. So an opioid-based.
For the viewers that don't know, fentanyl right now is ending up in heroin on the streets, and this is a very big problem. There's a lot of overdoses with heroin addicts all over the United States. It's from what I've read. I don't know what the hit, the amount of highness that you get from fentanyl. I guess is just insane. And when this feels very, very conspiratorial, New World Order type stuff, where you're thinking to yourself like, hey, I can't believe that fentanyl, which is being made by pharmacies, which is ending up in heroin, which now you have this pharmaceutical company that's doing a video, which I also read, as I'm sure that you read, was hiring fentanyl pharmaceutical reps that were specifically attractive strippers, right? Yeah. I mean, to go out there and slang fentanyl, and I use slang because it was the other thing with the other opioid. It was Oxycontin. It had the company in 2000. They'd given away an incredible amount of free samples to physicians to give to people. And obviously, you have this big opiate epidemic. This is the same sort of conversation that we're having about Gucci and maybe sort of what you're alluding to, which is, hey, this feels like we might be marionettes or puppets, and there's someone sort of dangling the strings above us that are making these decisions. So,
I mean, yeah, it's too confirming. It's like, oh yeah, we had suspected for many years that all these pharmaceutical companies were dirty scumbags.
Yeah.
Oh, and this is
Yeah.
And this is the video that they put out. Okay, so we know that they're wanting to push more of this product on to doctors, and that article just explained a lot
It's
of
also
creepy things.
What are you guys thinking? You know, like and then like where are you at? It's like when you're watching some documentary and something gets really fringe, where you have all these pharmaceutical reps and they're, you know, you can imagine they're sitting there in whatever 4.5 or 5-star hotel resort that they're at, and they're saying, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna put this video on, and they're sitting there and like all these college educated Americans with, you know, degrees, I'm assuming in the last 10 or 15
actually
years
what they were talking about was
are okay
how
with this shit. Like,
they probably think that maybe they're desensitizing. They're probably trying to desensitize their sales force. You know, like let's dummy it up and then hustle and get this product out there.
You know, when
convince your doctors to sign higher doses.
Fentanyl kills people, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the reality of it, right? Oxycontin killed a lot of people throughout the United States of America. It led to an opiate epidemic that we're seeing cripple America. I think that this idea, that just to be honest about it, is that a lot of times that when we're looking at things in society that we can monetize or commodify, and that we know translates over to money, that we start making excuses. And the excuse, I'm not saying that you are or I am, but the excuses is that, well, how do we regulate something like this? Besides, after all, these are publicly traded companies. These are farmer companies. And somehow that this is okay. It's not okay. It's certainly not okay for a video like this, you know, to end up being shown to a bunch of pharmaceutical reps, whether the intention behind it was to desensitize their reps or the intention behind
Well,
it.
you remember that it said in the article they look for what they called PhDs, poor, hungry, and driven. Like they're the type of people they wanted reps. They wanted young, attractive people who were essentially, you know, poor and not like they calling it a PhD is almost like a little bit of a jab. Like they're probably looking for people that, you know, weren't very educated.
Well, I mean, we're gonna have an honest conversation.
Because I mean, that's what you do in a sales force. You know, you get people, you get hustlers. I worked at a car dealership, man.
You can be a graduate of an American university, a top 25 American university, and still be pretty ignorant to a lot of realities in life. You could still be so driven off this idea of the American dream that you can align yourself with a pharmaceutical company like this that can come out with a video like this, and you know, these people not seeing the transparency of it, that these are the sort of moments that matter, and that you shouldn't be aligning yourself with that. Now, that's in conflict of probably personal responsibility and your Honda Civic bill, and you know, your car insurance and your iPhone plan and so forth. But the truth is that if people had that moment of being in mindfulness, that if you're a rep there and you're thinking, and I believe they're taking the CEO to task over this. So, but yeah, you should be very mindful of these things. And it's an old excuse in America that has existed far too long, which is, you know, we didn't know any better. I mean, I hear this about slavery, which is, you know, I remember being, I went to DC and you're reading the revered, you know, documents of the country and all this great writing. And we also know that great writers at that time, great architects of this country, revered men of our country, were discussing how slavery was wrong, but yet did nothing about it. I mean, it's the same sort of excuse, like, oh, well, we didn't know any better because it makes money, or we didn't know any better because it was just supposed to be cute.
Yeah.
Or we didn't know any better. Like
it feels like living inside of a real world episode of Workaholics. You know, like imagine what that company is like. It's probably a shit show. You know.
Yeah, it's a lot of things that are affecting everyday Americans and their ideas and its ideology and its narratives, and it's because someone is pretending that they don't know any better. And when you look at a fentanyl rap video, you know, you should hope that by the time you're in middle school, or at least a sophomore in high school, that you should probably know a fentanyl rap video that's rallying up the troops to you know, or that even that you're having that your hiring process is based on this idea of who's attractive. And, you know,
it also goes, but it goes back to how scummy these types of companies are.
Yeah.
These, like, A pharmaceutical company with sales reps, and this sounds exactly like companies that I've even been a part of, where they are selling a dream. They are trying to just get people to buy on a certain.
Who was the guy, Daniel? Who was the guy with the insulin pen? What was it called?
Oh yeah, Shkreli.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. I mean, these sort of.
Yeah,
things,
I think he was a bought a majority of the shares and took over the company in that way. I think he was like a rogue.
and then he increased it by a couple 100%, 1,000%, something crazy. Listen, the other one that I think about was the Stanford graduate that secured all the capital based on the blood test that can come back in 24 hours.
Oh yeah.
There's Theranos or
Theranos, yeah.
Theranos, yeah.
Much discussed that you could find a million business podcasts talking about that whole debacle.
Right.
I think there's gonna be like a movie coming out or something.
Lifetime movie. But when we're talking about there's something, the one thing that I think that we all have to, there is a moral responsibility that exists, and perhaps there isn't a conversation about it. That is that there are two different worlds. There's this world where we're looking at things where we know, because things can be monetized, that we're okay with decisions that do happen, and we look the other way because that might translate over to money or something as big as. And then there's another world which is like, hey, pharmaceutical companies are responsible for heroin epidemics in a very divergent way, but also in a very connected way. That there is a correlation between decisions that were made by these pharma companies that plays out to epidemics of opiate abuse in America.
Yeah.
So the responsible thing to do would be to take these people to task. And it's also the other responsible thing to do is to not be so naive that decisions like this haven't been made, continuously are being made today, and will probably be, are gonna happen in the future if we don't take them to task and look to rectify these things. So, I don't know. You've been following up on my man Jesse Smollett?
I caught up a little bit.
Yeah. Man.
We all caught up. I guess the nation caught up on the story.
Yeah. I had a moment during one of the podcasts.
Yeah, episode 1, there was a moment where I remember, I didn't think about it until later when I watched it again, where maybe you were sniffing the bullshit early on.
I mean,
I wasn't aware of what was going on, but you seemed to have called it out early.
The one thing that I say is that with the victim, you should always believe the victim. We should always believe the victim. And I don't believe that what's the court saying? Until proven guilty or whatever it is.
Innocent until proven guilty.
Innocent until proven guilty. Thank you. We should believe victims, but it's also to know that both of us being involved in boxing, and probably I remember the piece I had written about how every
man should be punched in the face at least once.
Every man should be punched in the face at least once.
It's a good life lesson.
It's a good life lesson.
Starting point.
But when I was looking at Jesse's face after what he described as an attack, with little, the little scratches and so forth, and I don't mean to belittle him. I shouldn't say, but looking at him and saying it didn't look like you'd gotten jumped, and it didn't. If whoever is out of their mind in that moment where they're going to pour bleach on somebody and say "Make America Great Again," which we know didn't happen. But if hypothetically, if somebody was out of their mind that much, they probably
would have been more damage.
There would have been a lot more damage, right? They would have stomped them out. It's a bad thing because, the reality is that there's a lot of people in the country that are beaten up because of their sexual orientation. Obviously, people are losing their life and they're being assaulted because of their race. And you get scared that this guy's feeling that part of the country that believes that these issues are being dramatized or being blown out of proportion.
Now the critics have the power. They now they can say, well, I'm calling bullshit on every single story out there because they want to subscribe to some higher conspiracy because of this event. Doesn't really help the case for other social issues,
So you think about Charlottesville and the guy that ran over the people in the car, right?
Yeah.
And we know that things like this happen. We also know that anytime when you're dealing with something as fringe as ideology or rhetoric, whether that it can translate over into these moments of violence that's real in America. What I didn't like about Jesse is that he came out and he aligned himself with, being part of victimhood. During one of his interviews, he had referenced, himself as a victim, knowing that he wasn't a victim. There's an incredible amount of people that are being victimized in America that are, habitually, ritually victimized, and this isn't to take, away from a conversation that needs to be had. That these things are very real in America, but God. There's a philosopher, I say his name wrong, Zizek, Z-I-Z-E-K, but he has a YouTube talk about victimhood. And he sort of goes across the nuances of victimhood and what comes along with that. He's like one of these postmodern thinkers. He's a great philosopher. He also takes Jordan Peterson to task. Do you know who Jordan Peterson is?
Yeah, I'm aware of who he is.
Yeah. There he
kind
is.
of a popular guy.
Yeah, Zizek. Yeah, if you type in Zizek, I'm saying it's wrong now. And victimhood, a talk comes up, and if the viewers are bored out there, it's a good talk. But this idea that when you're aligning yourself with the victim, that there's certain privileges that come across with being the victim, and I think a lot of this we saw get illustrated in the small a thing, which is that there's a blind sort of belief, and that once somebody is, not belief, but there's a blind sort of like power that comes along with saying, hey, I'm the victim, and that you're not to question the victim. And I think that that's a good thing. But unfortunately, in 2019, in the way we're seeing society evolve, more and more so, we probably need to have a deep philosophical talk about if you have a part of America that is aligning themselves with victimhood all the times, is in a very Freudian analytical way, is there a receipt, a benefit that comes along with that? So it's just a heavy talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll look up that guy Zizek.
Zizek, yeah.
Heard of him
you got all these guys that are taking Jordan Peterson to task because Jordan Peterson has a. Postmodern. I feel
I feel like you're talking down to me.
You're in class. Postmodernism is.
No, not really. I'll be honest. I don't really know.
You're probably a postmodernist. Everybody's sort of an accidental postmodernist because you ever go. You're like Daniel was talking about the quinceanera that he was at yesterday, but you go inside something, you start deconstructing whatever is built around that. So. It's like us at fights. You've probably had that moment at a fight where you're like, or in a gym. I've had this moment, and I've thought to myself, would the speed bag still, if boxing started today?
Yeah. We brought this up in a podcast.
Yeah, would the speed bag still be there?
Right.
Yeah, so.
Okay, so you've gotten a little bit conspiracy a few times on this episode today. Right. I want to bring it back to boxing. That fight, Hector and Ivan.
Right.
Stopping at round 4. Did you get a chance to see that?
I haven't got it. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see it. I know that we're talking about Delgado, Ivan Delgado.
Delgado, yeah.
So you want to?
I just want to light your fire a little bit because you're kind of on a roll of a little bit of a conspiracy sort of theme today. Mm-hmm. I don't think that necessarily needed to be stopped.
No.
That cut. Yeah. So
can you pull up the cut? Is there any way to pull up the cut on so we gotta take a look at it?
I don't have
the Is it? You think there's an image of it?
There might be an image.
Yeah,
of it.
but
it didn't look like it was gushing. It didn't look like the fight needed to be stopped.
Especially when you think about Badu's cut, right?
Oh yeah.
Right. So you think about Badu's
but this fight, where was that?
Against Marcus Brown, I think.
Yeah, that was in New York. No,
they were in Vegas.
Vegas, okay.
Yeah.
But this was in Tijuana.
Yeah. So.
And I don't know. To not get conspiratorial because
you know this already. You just don't want to. You just want to dance around it. You don't have to dance around it. Is there a bias that exists for a fighter from Mexico versus a Mexican American in Tijuana?
They're both Mexican American.
Are they both Mexican American?
Yeah, they're both Mexican American.
Who's on the A side?
Hector Tinajara.
Okay,
Yeah.
he's the A side.
He's the A-sider, taller, young guy, 22 years old, 16-0.
Can I tell the viewers something?
Tell them what you want to
I
tell
think
them.
this is the most funniest thing
What?
that the viewers never
Yeah.
realize.
Yeah. Oh, they don't know A-side and B-side?
No. So for our viewers out there,
Yeah.
I think a fair assessment is 97-98% of the time. Red corner wins, which means A side wins.
Yeah.
This is.
Dude, you just tipped the scales, man. A couple of my buddies are going to be making so much money now at the sports book.
But not, literally, you can have 18 bouts that go on in the night, and it's not uncommon to see all 18.
I'll be honest with you, though,
on the red corner to win.
It's not. You said red. Are you saying like specific? Like not every promoter will use red as the A side.
No.
Okay, I know what you mean.
I think sometimes though that's like the way that they. That's the curveball so that the general public doesn't catch on. It's not to say. Listen, it's not to say that
some promoters will. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I've been involved with the A sides in the blue corner before, but A side 98% of the time. I don't know the exact. There's no empirical data around 98% of the, but I would bet my life over 95% of the time. Like, I've been to shows where A side wins all night. You've been to these shows?
Yeah.
You're like, I just didn't go to these shows, Trevor. I matchmaked on these shows.
Yeah. I've been that guy that has to bring in an opponent who knows he's gonna lose.
Yeah.
But he's delusional enough to take the fight.
Right. Or he needs
get paid
money.
his $300. Yeah. He was paid more on the show. He was paid.
So I think that
$1,000 plus. This was for an MMA show, so they do it a little differently. This is good. I think that this is good. Hats off to the sport of MMA. I learned that in MMA they get a bonus for if they win. Yeah, most promoters, small time promoters, will say you win, you get another $100 or whatever. That's good. We should have that in boxing. I mean,
following suit with UFC. Yeah, I think
it's a good idea.
It's a good thing. But back to sort of the A side B side talk, which is to say that it's a very uncomfortable sort of talk to have with the general public out there because they're not.
I'm trying to sell my sport.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to convince people of why we should be watching boxing.
Yeah.
But then sometimes I have to be honest with you and telling you a little bit of these secrets that don't. But we should be clear though. Fights are not predetermined.
No.
They're just overly matched.
It's just even I've worked a little bit as a matchmaker too. And
you just find someone that is going to be a good look.
There was somebody that I was looking at. I can't remember the young man's name, but he was like 18-1, but it was 18-3 or something like that. But so this is a great record. But it's also when you go to BoxRec, and the guy had been dormant for 2 years, and since he came back, he'd had 3 losses by knockout.
Yeah.
So if you're to match him with somebody who's 20-0,
that's a good look.
That's a good look.
The record says it's a good look, but we know what
We know that young man.
We know that the switch has been flipped and he's a little bit damaged because
something probably derailed.
3 knockouts in a row is it's a pattern at this point.
When you get to the highest levels of boxing, when guys start making it to TV and televised bouts, less and less. Case in point, DeGale versus Eubanks. Eubanks is not the A side last night. DeGale was. So, and that's probably why I saw a little bit of bias refereeing, which I thought was in favor of DeGale. But Chris Eubanks comes in and wins. So it's not to say that it's to say that 5% or 2% where A side does lose, it's because of at the highest level fights are getting much more competitive. So,
and I remember
I haven't seen the fight, but back to and I don't but sure. Have they stopped some fights? The fight that I think of that they stopped is give me a second here. Who's the good looking kid from Wild Card? Oh man, it's gonna. Good
looking kid from Wild Card.
Yeah, younger. Oh.
What race?
A Latino kid. He's with Eric Brown. It'll give me a second.
Zepeda?
No. It's gonna come back to me. Yeah, it's gonna come back to me. It doesn't. He fought J-Rock. He fought Julian Williams. Can you go to Julian Williams' BoxRec for me? And
I can't find the fight clips.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah, we're gonna
Julian,
go to
what was that name?
Williams. Yeah, it should be alias J-Rock.
I think he's fought on bash cards, right?
Did Julian Williams? He can fight.
I think
He's out of Philadelphia. He got knocked out by Charlo, but besides him,
Oh no!
Very
I'm
high.
thinking of the wrong guy, man.
What am I looking at?
Look at who he fought. There was a no. Look at his no contest or a draw. Who was it against?
There's a loss.
Yeah, who?
Jamal Charlo.
Yeah, no, before Charlo, who
No
was?
contest. Hugo
Hu-
Centeno.
There we go. Hugo Centeno. Yeah, Hugo Centeno. If anybody has you know who Hugo Centeno?
No, I
is?
don't.
He's a pretty big LA prospect. To be honest with you, just being very, I didn't expect him to be able to beat Julian Williams, and I didn't think that was a good look for him at that time. Fights going on. Julian Williams is absolutely getting the best of him. A cut happens, but it was, I think, around the third round, so they didn't have to go to the cards. They went to him. The cut didn't even look that bad, and he said, "I can't fight. It's affecting my vision." Great. He caught a loss too, right? Recently.
Are you talking about
Hugo? Yeah.
Let me see.
He had lost after that. So
I
I think he had lost to somebody recently.
Jamal Charlo.
No, not Julian Williams. Hugo.
Yeah.
Oh, he lost to Charlo too? Oh, yeah, right, he did. Oh, yeah. So, they both lost to the same Charlo? Huh.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, they shouldn't have fought him against him either. But that, to me, was like, here's a guy, Golden Boy show. J-Rock's not with, I don't think he's with Golden Boy. I think he's with Al. I can't remember, though.
Probably.
But, But, yeah, they thought that it was a complete, like that. As far as conspiracy goes, conspiracy is especially today in today's YouTube world.
Right.
What conspiracy could leave you
That could be a whole video in itself of boxing.
down. Yeah. Besides that, though,
Yeah.
So I think we're wrapped.
We're wrapped.
Yeah.
We're done. We're good.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. Please share the episode. Share the show with a friend. Don't forget to subscribe to the show.
Leave comments too. Let us know.
If there's anything you need us to cover, if there's anything you disagree with us about, let us know.
Let us know.
We're happy to address it.
We love to argue.
Yeah. And suggest any guests you have for the show. We have a few lined up for the next couple weeks. And we'd love to hear from you guys. Thanks for tuning in.